Hey, David.
Hello, good afternoon. All right.
Hello.
Hey, Tracy.
Hi, Butch. How
Good
are
afternoon.
you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Hope you are.
Doing as well as we can. Hi, Roxanne. How are you? I don't have a fun background of IUP. I couldn't get any of them to work right.
I was just trying it. I don't like it that much, but now it's there, so.
I got nothing.
Roxanne, is that designed, does that go with your university in some way? This time?
That is a Georgia, see, it's got a little logo on the bottom. That's a Georgia Southern choice.
Oh, all right. I love it. Very nice.
If you go to our campus, you can't help but just be inundated with the fresh air of pines. I've been to your campus many times. It's so beautiful down there.
That's the first thing I noticed when I went to interview was just how much like pine it smelled everywhere. You get used to it.
Yeah, it smells like pine trees everywhere on our campus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted
Well,
to
I
make
like that Amy doesn't have her background either. Makes me feel better.
Well,
Thanks,
that's
Amy.
because I can't figure out how to add it. I've been trying for 3 days. I can't figure out how to put it in.
Amy,
could
why
do
didn't
it,
you
but they're
call me?
terrible.
I can help. Amy, I'll walk you through that. I know
Well,
you'd love our
I got rid
customer
of the dusty
support team.
bookshelf behind me, so I can position this a little bit, so it's a little bit better like that. But
Find an image that you really like, and I'll teach you how to do it. You got to save it to your pictures on your laptop.
But they all
it
make me
is-
look like I'm
I have pictures on
decapitated.
my laptop.
Yeah, Tracy, I actually usually don't like using virtual backgrounds. I like the real room, but we all have a quality background this year that we're trying out. Well, I just wanted to make sure that technology-wise we were good. Who's actually doing the screen sharing during this morning's presentation? Afternoon.
None of us.
None
None
of
of
us.
you?
I
We don't have a
pulled up a
presentation.
document. I pulled up a document that I can screen share, primarily to scare people. I'll show you what I mean. So this is my organizational chart. So the concept for the conversation for me is, oops, I have to click the share button. Is we're a small school, but we have to do exactly what a big school does. And this is the advantage of Koali, as far as I'm concerned, as well as the advantage of the integration of the modules. Because this organizational chart for me, the only thing that's highlighted in yellow, that is the only thing that's not operational. I have 6 functional areas. I have 4 major operational stuff that has to happen. And when you look at that and you think, oh, you're a small school, what do you need Koali for? It's like every single one of these things touches some piece of the Koali modules that I have in play on my campus. So yeah, it's kind of like, so one of the things I think that happens is people think, oh, you're a small school, maybe you don't really need all of that power behind the software. But the truth is, we do everything that you do.
Mhm.
If you're an R1, we do everything that you do, and we do it on a tighter shoestring with less staff and with more innovation and Band-Aids, if you will, I suppose. Maybe Band-Aids isn't the right word, but that's the only thing I had to share. So I'll remember to click the second share button.
No, that
Yeah,
sounds great.
other than that, David, we're not sharing. We don't have a PowerPoint. We're just gonna talk.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's fun because then you can see faces and so. And but you're able to see people in the waiting room and let them in, right?
Yeah, I'm admitting
Okay.
people as fast as I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I have. Pardon me.
I'm gonna jump out, but to go make sure the other session I'm training right now is also in good shape. But sounds like a great plan. So good luck on your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I see people joining now.
Can they hear us already?
Yeah. As soon as they come in, they can hear you.
Okay.
I could mute everybody, but if we're just going to chat, we might as well
Might as well
get
start.
chatting, you know?
And this is, we're really kind of, I'll admit to everybody, we're flying by the seat of our pants on this one. We, I think we coordinated our own, right? Like I know what I'm gonna say. But I don't know that we have a plan of attack. Like Amy, are you gonna go first? Roxanne, are you going first?
I can do introductions and go first, and then I think in our planning, we were gonna hand it off to Roxanne and then.
Roxanne, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
And since it's a roundtable discussion, that's why we don't have as many slides. It's a real roundtable discussion. So we're really hoping that people will ask questions and interact once we've shared who we are and what we do and how big the plan is. So,
Tracy, are you going to share about the PASHE program that you're doing? Is that? Because
I
Amy,
am.
that's what you and I talked about yesterday. I was talking to Amy about that yesterday morning.
makes
I
Tracy
am.
one of my little heroes.
I've lost
Just
sleep over this.
Lost sleep?
I lose sleep over this.
We're going to take good care of you. It's going to be a huge success.
Yeah, I mean, thank
I'm
goodness
gonna
that
go-
we have Kowali and we have the capabilities that's going to provide to us. We could never do it without.
Thank you. Once we get started, I'm not planning on saying anything, right? This is a session. These days are for you. These meetings are for you. So I'm really going to admit people as fast as I can. And unless there's a technical glitch, I'll just hang back. Oh, and then Bess is here. So now if there's a technical glitch, we really got somebody that can help us out. You all know Bess, I'm sure. She's marvelous.
Hey, glad to help where I can.
Do you know Amy and Tracy and Roxanne best? Do you ever work with any of them?
We haven't worked together directly, but we've met. Yeah. Good to see everybody.
Fantastic.
Tracy, no more Pigtail Thursdays. I chopped that.
Oh, I'm disappointed. That's right. I forgot.
Mhm.
If I
I was
had
gonna send
remembered,
you a
I would have
picture.
tried to get little pigtails in here.
I was gonna send you a picture, but my husband's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, never mind.
Our next face-to-face, Roxanne, I want pigtails.
I have to do
I will
some
do the same.
growing.
I will force mine into pigtails.
Okay, we'll do it. Do you have to go out in public like that?
Yeah. Do you care?
Not really.
I don't care.
Not anymore. Everybody's wearing masks.
Exactly.
Fashion went out the window.
True. That is one benefit of Zoom is I don't have to wear a mask and I don't have to look at others with masks.
Mhm. You can see facial expressions.
Mhm. Which do tend to get me in trouble on occasion.
Mhm.
That's probably true for everybody. Well, it's 2:32. Want to wait till 2:35 and then we'll jump right, and then whatever format you three have worked out, we'll just kick it off. Okay, here's people continuing to come in.
Yeah, they're over in the virtual cafe doing the drawing contest.
I was in there, yeah. That's what it'd be like if we were live. I'd be out in the hallway bringing you all in, right? Hey, we're about to start. Get the coffee you need to get through the afternoon. We're about to start. And we'd be at some beautiful hotel and have some big dinner
We'd be in San
plans.
Diego. Is it a San Diego year?
I have
Oh,
no
maybe
idea.
next year.
I think should be a San Diego year. And my
I love that.
profile. So my profile picture, that's me in San Diego when we were there several years ago.
Great.
Nice.
Who doesn't love going to San Diego? All right, well, the pace of people coming in has slowed a great deal. So Amy, I think did you say you were going first, or Tracy, you're going first?
I'm playing hostess. I'm playing hostess.
Okay.
So
She is our leader.
Okay, I'm gonna do everybody a big favor, and I'm going on mute, and it's all yours.
well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in our session. My name is Amy Taylor. I'm Director of Sponsored Programs at Southern Connecticut State University. And I have two colleagues with me today who will introduce themselves very shortly, Roxanne and Tracy Eisenhower. I do want to say that the last time we were in San Diego, the three of us did a similar presentation. And so this is kind of like reprising the band. You know, we got back together and we talked about what has happened in our institutions and in our quality systems since San Diego. And I think Roxanne and I have both switched institutions. Are we at new institutions? I know I am, but Tracy is creating a whole new array of institutions. So we're really excited to share a little bit about our stories and what happens at our small schools. For the three of us and for this session, we don't really have a full slide deck of slides. This is a panel discussion. And so each of us will take a turn to sort of talk about our schools, what we do, what systems we use, and what's happening for us. And then we really want to open it up for questions, because it's really where the Koala community reinforces what we do and helps us in such a great way. And more importantly, of all the things I could think of telling you, like, they may not be of interest to you. I really want to know what your questions are and how we might, as a small school, we might have dealt with something similar or different, or share ideas. So it's an open discussion. And that's why we don't have as many, we don't have a slide deck for sure. But so I'll tell you a little bit about Southern. Southern Connecticut State University is it's a state institution in a system of 17 schools. 13 of them are community colleges, 4 of them are universities. UConn is our cousin. So UConn is not in our system, but UConn is our land grant cousin, so to speak. Southern Connecticut is the largest institution in that state system. We have about 10,000 students, predominantly an undergraduate institution. And my office is very tiny. I have 3 full-time people, 4 part-time people in and out. And the only slide I'm going to share with you right now is what my organizational chart looks like. And the reason I share it is to give you the idea that if you're coming from a larger school and you think, well, you're a PUI, maybe you don't have as many needs or challenges as an R1 or a larger institution. The truth is, this is what we do in my small school. We have 6 major functional areas. Underneath of those functional areas, we have the normal types of activities that pre-award, post-award, compliance, or electronic systems might support. And then here are the people who have predominant responsibility within those areas. So we do everything from idea to archive related to grants management for the institution. And that means I have to know a little bit about everything, and I need a Koala solution that helps touch all of those. So that's the only slide that we have. I'm happy to share it with you and to talk about how we developed it and what we do within it. But essentially, at Southern, we have implemented the Koala Research Monolith. We've instituted protocols for IRB and IOCOOK compliance, and recently, just last summer, activated conflict of interest in the Koala monolith. And last March, literally 2 weeks before the pandemic shutdown, implemented Koala Build. So we have a full array of services that we use with our Koala modules. And this has enabled us to go from a completely paper-based system in 2017 to a fully electronic system in 2021. When the pandemic hit and my office was moved to a fully remote status, we didn't actually skip a beat. Everything that we do was integrated into that electronic platform, and we were able to operate as We were one of the few offices that operated without a lot of disruption. We were able to move through, work with our externally sponsored grants, and work with our internal PIs as well. And if you're wondering about volume for my institution, we do about, I'm going to say around 300 applications a year, almost evenly split between external and internal sponsors. We fund about 100 to 120 of those every year, and we have about 400 active projects. So that's the scope of what we do. And we do that with basically 5 FTEs across the campus. And that's about it I can tell you for Southern. I'm going to turn it over to Roxanne. Tell us, do a little introduction and tell us a little bit about your situation.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Hine, and I serve as the Director for Research Services at Georgia Southern University. I also serve as the Executive Director of our Research and Service Foundation. Georgia Southern is a growing institution. 2 years ago, we consolidated with Armstrong State University into the Savannah area. So we went from being a small brick and mortar one location school to 3 campuses, 26,000 students, and 1,200 faculty. In order to manage that growth, we hired an associate vice provost for research, and we had a peer review from Incura in January of last year. We're in the process this entire year. We've spent creating a response to the peer review. So really taking a deep dive into our processes and pre-award, particularly, and how we relate to post-award, and making changes across the board. So all of those changes are coming to fruition now. We've made some updates recently in the CX system, and we will be updating our website, updating how faculty integrate with CX or don't. So we've got a lot of changes going on. The university saw about 12.1 million in research and development expenditures in FY20. Proposals submitted, I want to say we had about, it's a little over 250 proposals submitted in FY20. We were awarded 144. The proposals submitted, we submitted $50 million worth of proposals, and we received 10.7 million. We also submitted 462 IRB protocols, which is pretty hefty for a 2-person office in that side. We consider ourselves a small office. We have 4 pre-award staff, not including myself, and they are a senior grant coordinator and then 3 grant coordinators. We work in conjunction with our research accounting office. They are actually housed in business and finance, and we work in teams. So the grant coordinators and the pre-award people, the research accountants are matched up as a team to work on colleges. We implemented Koali in 2014. That was before I arrived at Georgia Southern. When I was at Coastal Carolina University, we implemented Koali there. And so I did get to go through the full fun implementation. And then when I got here to Georgia Southern, they had just started using it. So I was very familiar with the system. The modules that we use proposal development, the institutional proposal, negotiation, and we implemented COI this year. And then the modules that we're looking to use and develop this year and in the near future, we're looking at award, subaward, and protocols. All right, Tracy, your turn.
All right. Wow. So I'm the baby of the group. And by baby, I mean like the most junior Koali user. My institution is a lot different than probably many or all of you on the call. My institution has Indiana University of Pennsylvania. We are about 60 miles northeast of Pittsburgh. We are not in the state of Indiana. We have about 7,000 students, 600 faculty, and we are the flagship institution within our 14 school state system. Okay. We do not, that does not include schools like Penn State University or the University of Pittsburgh. They are not state system schools. It's like I said, we are the flagship, we are the largest, and we have the largest research portfolio by about 6 million. We do between 8 and 10 million per year, so still comparably small. But my office is a completely separate 501c3 from our university. They literally, legally and compliantly, outsource their research administration services to our office. So we do cradle to grave, everything from research development through proposal development, budget development, submission, award negotiations and acceptance, and then all the post-award fiscal and non-fiscal management, right through project closeout. I have an office of 10, 3.5 at pre-award, 3 at post-award, and then clerical support and our executive director. So we have a pretty robust team. But again, we do everything from cradle to grave within our institution, including the grants accounting. So Kowali was new to us in 2016. Prior to that, we were a sneakernet institution where we literally had to walk the approval form around campus to get signatures. It would sit in somebody's in basket, get buried, get lost. Our team, my pre-award specialist, would spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to track it down, finally finding it at, the day before or the day of submission, which just created really angry, really frustrated deans and chairs and administrators and grant specialists. And so I think that's one of the biggest time savings, most efficient uses that we have right now of Kowali is that completely web-based electronic review and approval, and the ability for the pre-award specialist to know at a click of a button where it's at, who's holding it up, and the ability to ping them electronically. And then also upload the revised drafts of all of the documents, because we all know that there's never a final version until right before you hit the submit button. And being able to upload quickly those revised versions for the administrators to be able to review has been a blessing to all of us. And the newest venture that we are headed down is, I mentioned the 14 state system schools. If any of you are from or familiar with the state of Pennsylvania's economic climate right now, you know it's tanking drastically, and higher ed is really taking a big hit with respect to that. A lot of our schools are experiencing faculty retrenchments, low enrollment, and even managerial and staff layoffs. What this is doing to some of my sister schools and my colleagues across the state is they literally do not have even a single person in their research office. So there is no one to help the faculty. There's no one to mitigate any risk. And even though they're small, they do, between 1 million and 3 million among the 13 of them. We all know that the risk is still pretty much the same, right? We still have to manage, we still have to mitigate those challenges. So what we've done with the help of Kowali, with the help of Butch and the team, they've worked very, very closely with us to develop a hierarchy that will allow us to do the research administration services from cradle to grave for my sister schools. So we are now taking on, within the next, hopefully Butch, within the month, at least 3 additional schools with 4 more kind of on their tails, waiting, I think, to see if we can be successful with this initiative. But we would never be able to do it without Kowali and the reporting capabilities that that's going to provide, right? We can set up individual hierarchies so that the review and approval process follows each of the sister schools' current processes and their hierarchies. We'll be able to track and report all of the proposals and all of the awards, including the prop dev, IP, award management, And we will be implementing within the next 6 months the subrecipient section and negotiations. I'm way behind. I should have done that a year ago, but we're getting there. And the other thing with the PASHE system is we're all governed by a chancellor. The chancellor requires reports. We all report differently. We all report apples to oranges, right? There is no consistency. There's no ability to compare. There's no ability to leverage any of the information. And so we are very hopeful that this will allow us to show the chancellor some real useful data.
Well,
Question.
that's great, Tracy. I'm really impressed with all of the things that you were able to do, since I think in 2016, when we did our presentation, you were just about to implement the first Koali module. So you've really come a long way. And like I said, you're one of my special heroes, because I'm like, yeah, I knew you could do it.
Well, we have really good friends, right? We have colleagues across the institutions and with the Koali administration and the service.
Right. So as hostess of the group, so to speak, I started off talking about, this is really a panel discussion, and the three of us are sort of given an overview of what happens at our schools. But the real key point for the session has to do with your questions. And you can either unmute yourself and just speak up and ask a question, or you could put it in the chat. But we're open for any kind of questions that you might have for any one of us, about small schools, how we use Koali, and where we are and where we think we're going. So any questions, comments? Did we miss anything?
I came in late, but are you all doing system to system in your respective schools?
No, Southern Connecticut is not doing system to system. And that was actually a quality control issue for us. While we have a growing sort of complement of federal applications that we're submitting, I don't have IT support for the systems. I'm the system administrator for all of the Koali modules, and our IT folks, other than the single sign-on support, they basically said, this is your system, you manage it. And so it's a question of bandwidth. In a small office at this point, I don't have a significant enough volume, and I don't have the extra pair of hands in order to go system to system. And my pre-award, my associate director for pre-award, actually likes it that way. She's really hands-on with all the specific portals. She works in Assist. She works in the grants.gov space, pretty project space, pretty capability. She's got pretty good capability there in practice. And she actually likes having the hands-on contact. So as long as I have someone in place who really enjoys that, and I don't have a significant federal volume, then we're not going to use system to system. I don't know about Roxanne and Tracy, your situation might be different.
We're the same. We don't have the depth of IT support that we would need in order to support the system to system for our institution right now, but hoping that will change in the near future. Again, I have some staff that have been with us for a long time, long before implementation. They are paper people. They want to print everything out and review it and touch it and put it in a file and put it in their file cabinet so they can touch it more. So, as much as we push to paperless, at the system to system, I have one of my senior grant coordinators. She doesn't do Google Drive. So if she won't do Google Drive, I'm pretty much sure she's not going to do system to system. So we're working with what we have right now. It's baby steps.
Yeah, I'll concur with everything both of them said. We don't have the volume and we don't have the IT support, and we are comfortable with our the way we do the federal submissions right now. I have some really strong folks who hold our faculty's hand from day 1 through day 31, and they all faculty included, like it that way. And so unless our volume really drives the need for change, I don't see that changing for us in the near future. It did, however, Koali and the ability to upload all of the documents, I will say, made it super easy for us to transition to remote work with the pandemic. And we were one of the few divisions on campus, even though we're separate, we still say we're a division on campus because we really are. We were one of the few divisions on campus that didn't drive our IT services insane with requests, because we already had a tool. We already had a place. We already had a repository. We just had to learn how to use it more effectively. And we have gone completely paperless. I haven't printed or touched a piece of paper, Bruxanne, in 8 months. Not entirely true.
I have not. I mean, I have been as paperless as possible for the past 8 months, but you know, there's always going to be, well, always going to be a staff member or a PI who is insistent on paper. So we do retain paper files, but we are using the CX system to retain award documentation as well.
Yeah. Koali has been our COVID friend as well. I'm just curious, how do your faculty respond to the reality of double entry? You know, putting one thing in Fastlane or research.gov and then also have to load up Koali with the same documents for approval.
Well, in our pre-award process, Jean, at Southern, if they're working in research.gov or Fastlane, where they have to load the documents themselves, our faculty prior to 2017, you know, they had a couple of really big, spectacular mistakes where the document was provided to the sponsored program staff, but the wrong document was uploaded into the application. And so, you know, faculty on small campuses, the word travels really quickly with that kind of huge mistake, but the word also travels quickly for a real success. And so the real key is that's where customer service begins for our unit, is under no circumstances will I just simply say, well, you know, that's in pre-award, I don't have anything to do with that. We have a regular staff meeting on Monday mornings where we sort of quarterback what's happening for the week, what kind of help does pre-award need, and that takes a priority in terms of supporting our faculty. They're not necessarily used to the portals or the systems. Again, in a small school with carrying a full teaching load, they might only submit 1 or 2 applications a year, if that. And if they're funded, then they stop applying because they're busy doing the research. So their training skills in terms of access to the portals are you know, sometimes they have to be retrained every time they want to apply to something in particular. So it's really important for my staff, for my pre-award staff, to know the portal, be familiar, and to guide them along those steps. And what happens when we provide that support at the pre-award stage, that when we then went to protocols and moved IRB and IACUC protocols from a paper environment to an electronic one, it was our faculty who were pushing our IRB committee going, we want this now. We want this now. This is great. We don't have to write it in paper or in Word or PDF. We get to enter it and copy it right on the screen. This is a really big innovation and we want it now. And we've seen a similar kind of thing when we went to build, where our faculty went, now we can see where you're going with this electronic platform for all of these research services. When's the next one? What we want the next one? How soon can you take this form and transform it to an electronic platform where we don't have to lose the paper anymore? So in my environment, at any rate, in my small school, the faculty appreciate any kind of staff support or anything that saves them from losing something, downloading or handing a piece of paper and having to walk it anywhere. I've had faculty who lost their paper copies after they printed them out and then came back to my pre-award people and said, my computer crashed and I lost everything. Can you replicate that proposal for me? Is there any hope that you have documents that might be, you know, stored somewhere to help me with this project. And we have been able to completely replicate everything that they had planned for the project, final drafts, budgets. I can't help them with their research data. That's still on a separate system, but anything else related to the proposal and what they've done, we've got that archived for them electronically. So.
Thank you. Training wise, I mean, Zoom has been our friend, you know, with COVID, you know, all of a sudden the faculty got very quickly up to speed on how to use Zoom, and for us to train them on quality, we just set up a Zoom session with them, you know, one-on-one to try to get them, you know, to know how to, you know, put their proposal in the system. Do you use any other methods? I'm just curious about your training, and especially in this COVID era. All of you, you know, I don't.
So I'll jump in. We have what I think is a phenomenal training program, and I wish I could take credit for it, but it's a colleague of mine who is my right hand when it comes to all of the Koali questions, mitigating challenges, troubleshooting, whatever that might be. And she has developed step-by-step instructions that include screenshots for all of the categories. So we have one for the PI to start the proposal and begin to upload their documents. I will say that we do not, and as long as I have a say in it, our faculty will never touch the budget in Koali because they just can't do it. It's wrong every time. But every other aspect of prop dev, the faculty members walk through Amber's training tools, and we've done some Zoom workshops. We did some face-to-face prior to the pandemic, but her instructions are absolutely incredibly detailed and so user-friendly that we have not had challenges. Even our president, who loves research, is a researcher by trade, and is a huge supporter of the research infrastructure within the university, is not a techie. And he's gone in and played around and found data, looked at the reports. He loves the dashboards, and she has been able to give him step-by-step instructions.
Good.
Are those training, each of you, Tracy, are those trainings publicly viewable? Or are they inside the firewall?
They're not publicly available. I think she has them in our wiki, but I absolutely will double check. I'm happy to share.
Yeah, it'd be just interesting to see how each is trying to, you know, help faculty and set them up for success.
Well, I can
Amy or
jump in on that too, as we had in our process review that we had last year, it was determined through the review of processes, through focus groups with the faculty, survey data, that faculty don't want to use CX. They find it confusing. You know, they are, some of them are a little technophobic, I think, but it's also, you know, going to us helping them as support while they work on the proposal. So we decided as a group that faculty no longer have to go into CX. They send everything to the grant coordinator uploads it. So the faculty are not entering the proposal data. We get that through a survey link that's located on our website. They, when they need to sign something or do certifications, they get a link that's generated from Koali to the email to them. So it takes them directly to where they need to go. Same with approvers, they get a link. So they don't have to go in and try to figure out where to go or what to do. And same as Tracy, we don't let them touch the budget stuff because it's just, because then they mess it up. I mean, to be honest. And then when they are uploading into Fastlane or research.gov or grants, well, we don't let them go into grants.gov. We pretty much keep them out of our systems unless it's Fastlane or research.gov where they have to go in. So that's one way we maintain that quality control over proposals and awards and budgets, is we're able to review them before they get submitted, and faculty aren't allowed to submit. So they say, well, I can just submit it. And we're like, no, you don't have authorization to do so. And we're nice about it. But that way we're trying to lessen those errors. We did have recently, actually, this week, an NSF proposal come back without review. And we're like, wait, what? But it turns out it was one that had allowed an excessive number of pages, I should say, over the 15. And something in the system didn't click over to allow those, so they sent it back, but we were able to successfully argue it back into the queue. So but again, those are the reasons why we maintain more control probably than some other institutions over the process.
So for workspace or for grants.gov, your school would just use what other system? You do the workspace thing for them, or?
Yep, we do it all for them.
Okay. Thanks.
So do you anticipate that when the new budget comes out that you would even look at maybe having your faculty start to do budgeting, or are you anticipating that you'd probably keep that line where it is? And I know it's not here yet, so it's a little bit hard to say, but I'm curious what you're anticipating just as that's being developed.
I would say, I'm sorry, if Tracy, I'll jump in at Southern, the environment for our faculty has got this this historic feeling that they are required to do way too much all the time because they teach 12 credits a semester, and the level of trying to combine that with a grants development or research makes the stress for them extremely hard. So they approach the whole process with is there anything that you can do for me that I don't have to worry about? And so while we take on that responsibility over in the sponsored programs office, our faculty really appreciate that. But what I find is I get better quality control in the data as it goes in. And so therefore I get much more consistency and better quality information on the reporting side when I pull it out. So for us as a small school, granted, if I were in a larger institution, I might have, we might push more of that activity out to the faculty for direct data entry. But what I find is that fixing the mistakes later eats up an enormous amount of staff time. And so the quality improvement of taking on that responsibility, the time I commit to the data entry solves a time suck problem that was this big. And so for us, no, it's not likely that the budgeting module, even when it's revised, would be pushed out to our faculty. On the other hand, my pre-award staff are pretty excited about it. And we like the way it looks. We can't wait to see it.
I would say the same. I have a handful of faculty that will want to give it a try themselves. Out of the handful, there might be 3 that I will allow to give it a try and see what happens. But yeah, for the most part, but the pre-award team is excited.
Now, Tracy and Roxanne, do you allow your PIs to view any document where they are listed as a PI or a co-PI? And so they can, in terms of the shared desk space, as far as quality is concerned, if they're listed on the proposal or the award or the protocol, they can see anything. They can view an awful lot, but for the most part, my faculty don't necessarily want to do the data entry work.
Yeah. My faculty don't even want to go in and look at it once it's there. Do we allow them? Yeah, we allow them. Do they do it?
They do during tenure and review package building.
They do.
Really? They call me. They email or call me and say, hey, what have I done for the last 5 years?
Right.
I'm doing my tenure promotion, or I need.
You could look at it yourself.
Yeah, no, they won't. And that's okay. I actually, with the reporting functionality that it provides now, is so much cleaner and easier and takes a lot less of my time than pre-Koali days. So I don't mind. I run quarterly reports for all of the deans and the administration. in both proposals and awards, so they can see, you know, kind of at a glance where they're at. And I filter that by date so they can see which ones came in the last quarter versus this quarter, where we're at compared to last year at the same time.
We have a pretty quiet group other than Jean. Are there other questions out there? Other comments? Could you share comments about what happens in your schools with Koali?
Do we have anybody on the line that is not yet a Koali user and is just looking at the platform?
I'm not a Koali user. This is actually my first week at work at Geisinger in Pennsylvania. It just happened to be Koali days, so they're having me sit in. So I've never actually looked at it, but I can't wait to play with it. It seems really user friendly and nice.
Well, welcome to the Koali community.
Thanks.
And I'm glad to have a fellow Pennsylvanian on the line that can probably look out the window. You probably have more snow than I do.
Yeah, this is I actually moved up from Georgia, so it's a lot of snow.
I'm just going to interject here that it is 78 degrees outside and sunny. So
I think it's in the 50s and it is sunny here today, but there's also 3 feet of snow outside my door.
right, you said the S word. We don't do that.
I did.
Do we have any questions about, is anybody new to Koali or have questions about integration or I'm sorry, IT or you know any takeaways that you found with it? They are a quiet group.
If there are folks out there who just are really quiet but are looking at that implementation integration stage, a huge lesson learned on my behalf, because I led the integration team when we started with Koali. And I thought I was doing everyone a favor. And by everyone, I mean, you know, a lot of the faculty, a lot of the deans, the administrators, you know, the folks who may or may not even need to use Koali. We convened a very large working group. And as we progressed, people kind of disappeared from the working group. They didn't show up anymore. They didn't participate anymore. And I let them not participate. I intentionally let them not participate. And it took me a good year after implementation to get those same people back on board. I had to spend a ridiculous amount of my time with outreach, apologizing, making sure they understood why we chose Koali, why we are doing what we're doing, the benefits to the institution, the benefits to them, the benefits to the faculty, blah, 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 blah. If I had it to do over again, I would not let them fall off the group. I would force them to participate. I would force them to at least receive updates. Like, I didn't even send them updates. I just let them disappear. And that would be my point of advice, is don't let that happen. If you have a team that you've built intentionally, so because you need them to be engaged, you need their buy-in, even if you have to force feed the information to them, make sure they get the status updates, make sure they get the information. And don't be afraid to rip the Band-Aid off. It's not that bad.
I'll go next. I have just a few things I jotted down about if you're doing an implementation. 2 things about that I will say is make sure you have a plan for your historical data to either translate it over or pay to have it translated over. Because I did spend at Coastal, we spent a summer of data entry, putting everything by hand because the university didn't have the money to pay for the migration. IT support is imperative for successful implementation. and for maintenance of the system and in those integrations. We have been begging for IT support. They gave us a quarter-time person, so we're very happy to have her time. But we really wish that we had, in hindsight, we had asked for somebody full-time to be on this project, because that did, like Amy, that leaves a lot of the maintenance to me or to my staff, and it can be a lot. So those are two key takeaways that I had. And also that going to the meetings and Zendesk can be very, very helpful. And the Koali staff is fantastic about responding. I actually sent Kat a question this morning. I didn't realize that she was presenting, and she was answering me as she was starting the session. So they are incredibly responsive and just wonderful to work with. So that's all I have to say.
Well, in my closing comments, if you will, I would only say that in the 8 years that I've actually been involved with Koali, implementations, operations, to all the different modules, one of the things that has been really impressive has been the continued development of that community support. That Zendesk and the articles, that didn't exist in 2013 when I did my first implementation. And I had so many questions about, how does this work? How does that work? Because I knew I would have to be the system administrator, and there was no way to take it all in the training, you know, the focus training, and then be able to operationalize it when all the implementation support sort of ended and came back to operations. I just appreciate all the continued upgrades and changes that I don't have to think about in terms of how am I going to roll those out? What am I going to do? I can find a place where the system has become fairly stable for our institution. And so that sort of, this again speaks to the maintenance of how do I look at how we use it, what we use it for, and the innovations, as the new features are rolled out, those things become easier and easier to take a look at. I appreciate Tracy's comments about keeping the key people involved when you need them. And I have a more strategic approach in terms of, there's always a core leadership group, the wider work group, 14, 25 people, that certainly, it might touch every level of the campus, but there's always this core group of about 5 to 7 people who are leaders on the faculty, who are leaders in the leadership sense, and who basically champion the kinds of changes that we're making. I can see in the chat that Rachel has asked a question to talk more about how our office has taken on maintenance, and do we have any IT background. In terms of the user tables and the roles and permissions, I have a pretty strategic plan in terms of, and my staff hates it when I say this, but if I got hit by the bus, where are the reference guides that tell you step by step what to do? That 24/7 user support and the Zendesk support replaces any expertise about my system that I might have that might become unavailable if I, as the system administrator, am no longer available to my team. We have an absolutely out of the box implementation. I have no customizations whatsoever. And so wherever we are in the future, no matter who the personnel are, the standard configurations are in place. I mean, there's things you can turn on, things you can turn off. Maybe you learn, what to do and how to maintain certain tables, but it becomes easier to create a schedule and do a little bit of that on an incremental basis over the course of the year. And of course, leave good records behind, how you set up the configuration, and always look for that cross training for the person who's going to replace you. Because the truth is, I have no idea. COVID-19 happened, lots of things happen. And the really important part is that the system be able to continue on without me. So, Tracy.
Amy,
Yeah.
thanks for diving into that more. You just mentioned a schedule that you kind of do a little bit throughout the year. What all do you include on that schedule versus, I don't know, just trying to get a sense of kind of what gets priority when you guys are looking at maintenance that has to be done by your office?
Oh, sure. The most common maintenance is the hierarchy of approvers for the pre-award, for the proposal development module, because chairpersons will go on sabbatical or chairpersons will change. And so at least twice a year, in case I don't hear about it on my own, I request from the provost office an updated list of who are the deans and the chairpersons for all the departments. And so I have twice a year a task where I evaluate the list, I evaluate who the unit approvers or unit administrators are, and make sure that's consistent with who's actually operating in that role. We've had a couple of situations where a chairperson will go on sabbatical for the semester, so I only have to change it for a few months just in case a proposal comes through. And I use Outlook, and in fact, we use Outlook pretty aggressively to set that task up for the future. But my pre-award staff will actually use Outlook to put an item on the dean's schedule, particularly in arts and sciences, where he has like a whole lot and he can't remember when the proposal is coming through, where once she's got it scheduled and she knows what the deadline date is, she'll send out an appointment to put on his schedule that says, by the way, you're going to have to approve this when it comes through. Other types of maintenance are things like the rate updates for fringe benefits and indirect cost rates. So I have an annual sort of task list that I usually do as the fiscal year changes and our fringe benefit rates will change, where I walk through the configurations for those items and those maintenance tables to make sure that I have them far enough out, that I have them accurately reflected by any new data that's come in. Closeouts and faculty leaving campus, we have a sort of process around when we hear that someone is retiring, where we'll go and we'll look and see, okay, who's got an active grant, what's happening to their grant, who's going to take it over. We had a PI project director leave in January, leave the institution, and so worked to locate another project director in another department, facilitate all the changes related to access within the quality systems as well as within the financial systems. And just from my own experience, Rachel, as I come along with those things, I rely on my Outlook calendar pretty heavily to just, I got to remember to do this next year. I'm going to put it on the calendar for March or April so that I don't forget to do it. And then I have regular maintenance tasks either scheduled on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis, because there are different things that I want to check to make sure they're still in place and still up to date. We have APIs lists related to quality build, just all the nuances of the background stuff that makes it work. And I just put it on the task. I just put it on the list. And when it pops up, I do it, and then it remembers to save for the future. Keeps me pretty organized, thank goodness, because I have, memory like a sieve sometimes.
Yeah, I think our experiences are pretty similar, except I have an Amber that is not allowed to ever leave me. I've made her promise. No life events that will cause her to be out for any extended period of time. It's true, I do tell her that, but she has what we have transitioned, Amy, from a big truck book, that if I get hit by the big truck,
Right.
We've transitioned it to a lottery book. So if we win the lottery, we have those detailed stops. So that's exactly how detailed that standard operating procedure book is.
Okay.
And her maintenance instructions, and how do you change the hierarchy? How do you ad hoc? We use the ad hoc function a lot in prop dev for our chairs and our deans, especially if we have a change in the hierarchy that we didn't know about right before the proposal got started, and the chair calls us or the dean calls us and says, that's no longer mine. Like, why did I get this? We use that ad hoc function quite often. Also, when they forget to do it and it's, the day before, we're able to ping them that way.
Exactly. Any
Looks
other
like we had another
questions?
question from in the chat. Peggy asked, has anyone used the negotiation module? And if so, how?
Mhm.
I can say that we actually do use the negotiation module. We use it for a smaller set, a subset, I guess, of agreements that are non-financial and unrelated to a specific proposal. So we use it to track MTAs or DUAs or NDAs that we're using through the university, but that aren't yet related to a proposal.
So this is Peggy. I'm curious, thank you, because we're thinking about implementing it, but I mean, is it completely separate from email? Can you bring emails in? I just have nightmares of like having a whole nother system. I mean, everything you guys have all said, it's like, I mean, we can completely relate to it at Cal State Monterey Bay. But it's like, is it a whole nother system? Then I have to track emails and things like that. I guess I'm really trying to figure out why it would be useful.
Well, my pre-award staff use it. And so when they get the first request for just-in-time information or the first contact that says, we're thinking about funding this, they create a negotiation, and it allows them a place where they can make notes about email conversations. They can convert that email to a PDF and upload the documentation into an activity event. They can record notes around the conversation. And when they've finish negotiating any terms and conditions, or when they get the final award notice, or they've finalized the thing and they're ready to turn it over to post award, then they change the status. We configured an extra status that says ready for award setup. And that means that on a regular basis, our post award staff can go in and say, is there anything that's ready for me to work on? And so we use that negotiation status as a communication tool between the pre-award staff and the post-award staff. And so just by simply changing the status, they don't have to email us, they don't have to send us a notification, but by changing that status and having a regular weekly task that says, look for anything that's ready for setup, then we can take that and the post-award staff knows to move on to the next stage. We also use it for, sometimes, you know, you'll start the award signature process with a private contract or a sub-award, and you're waiting for the fully executed copy, but my institution has signed off on it. So we'll use that negotiation to realize we're still waiting for a final document, but we'll mark it as ready for award setup so that we can start getting the financial system ready to initiate that award. Because as you know, sometimes the final documents don't come through for weeks after the official project start date, but PIs will be like, can I start yet? Can I start yet?
Right.
So we use that negotiation module to track all kinds of open things. And the best argument I have for it is, again, with a small staff, when one of those people has to go on vacation or is out for an extended period of time, all of the things that they're working on are there documented in the negotiation. So one of my staff members lost a parent over the summer, and it was a sudden event. And so, you know, one day she's there and the next day she's like, oh, I'm sorry, but I have to be I can't be on campus for X number of days, but there's so many things to do. Maybe in between all my family stuff, I can come and do my work remotely. And I said, no, if we've been using the negotiation module properly, everything that is open for you, everything that is in negotiation and needs backup support is documented in that module. You can go and do what you need to do, and I can step in and find out what the next step is. Or if somebody contacts me, I can find out the next step. So although you might initially think it doesn't serve, you know, it doesn't seem to serve much of a purpose, that documentation history of the negotiation of the award, the way it gets set up, what we're waiting for in terms of documents, becomes this really shared space for the staff to understand that if we have to support each other and step in a role that we're not normally taking care
Have you
of.
ever used it with proposal development?
No, not usually, because proposal development has so many features to add documents and the electronic routing. So I don't normally use it with proposal development. It's almost always that handoff between one functional unit to the next, or there's a whole bunch of things that are in process and I just need to have that documentation in one spot. It's just really, really helpful that way. And like Roxanne and Tracy, like we might use it for other documents, collaboration agreements or NDAs, or, things that we're not quite sure, they aren't attached to something else in the system yet, but they can be attached later on. So if I have a non-disclosure agreement between two companies that want to work on proposal development, I might put that in negotiation. And when it moves and is actually submitted, I can then go back into that negotiation and reattach it from no attachment to the institutional proposal. And that keeps it all connected in the filing, in the electronic filing system.
So is it tied through Medusa at all then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And every time you create one, it ties in the Medusa. So you can
I do like Medusa. I think that's been a saving, especially when our science faculty tend to use the same titles in their proposals.
Oh, yes.
And it's like with all the agricultural stuff, it's like, I have no idea. It's like, so I do it like that. So because I can go back to the original PD or the IP.
And we have one award that has like 7 different sub-awards on it. And my post-award manager is like, I can't remember like who's got what document.
Yeah, and see, we do sub-award. So we're pre-plus. So we also do the sub-awards.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons we're thinking about, because I can no longer keep them all in my head. It's, we have so many with our local community colleges. I mean, I probably have 5 or 6, with each of them, and I've lost track, literally. Right. Yeah, I mean, the stickies are not doing it anymore. So,
one thing I wanted to mention too, sorry, for negotiation, one thing I know that is helpful.
You usually answer my
Hi, Peggy.
Like, help me, I screwed it up. So thank you.
Hi. Yeah, sure. No, the other thing I was going to mention is when I was at the University of Arizona, one of the huge things was faculty was like, well, where are we at with this negotiation? Where is it? They constantly were calling the office to figure out where it was. Well, with negotiation, there's a view activities option so that faculty can just click on a link and it'll pop up and it'll show like the series of activities, and usually it'll say what office it's in and what state, it was sent to the sponsor for full execution or whatever. So then I think it does reduce the number of like calls, just like where is it? Well, you can look now.
My other big fear is I already know I'm so far behind, and it's like seeing it in black and white or whatever color it is, just adds to my stress. So I mean, that's probably the one reason I think we're going to use it, but it's like, that's the one big thing that it's like, I don't need to see it on paper. I already know it. It keeps me up as it is.
The negotiation does have a field for the next follow-up date, right? And so if you use that follow-up date, and then in the search negotiation function, you're looking for things that are that require follow-up in this particular time frame or on a particular date, then what can happen is you can let go of that stress of, oh my God, I'm going to forget something. You have to remember to use the follow-up field, but what that does is it organizes that information for you. And so you actually move from a task management to a knowledge management staff.
Yeah, for us at the moment, it's short staff. I mean, like a lot of the other sponsor, we have positions open and can't fill them. So it's more that besides the work, it's the workload. But I think that's, I think it makes sense. It's just kind of trying to figure out, again, adding that to everything else. But I think it would be helpful because I did actually forget about one sub-award. Most of them I knew, and then, so that wasn't a good day.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Found one this morning where I was like, oh my God, we were supposed to request this renewal and we're 60 days late. Well, if we want to get paid, I guess we're going to do that work.
Wait,
But,
you request renewals? You don't wait till they say, hey, what are you doing over there?
No, it's an organization smaller than ours that issued the NSF sub-award or the sub-award on their NSF grant. I actually had to teach them about the FDP forms and help them fill them out the first time. So
I do that with all of our community colleges. I feel like I've become their de facto, sponsor programs. And so that adds a whole nother, or what's an IDC rate? Yeah.
Yep.
What do you mean I have to fill out a research and R&R budget template, for grants.gov, but yeah.
All right, Amy, you just convinced me on the negotiations module. Butch, put that on my list.
Yeah.
It's easy. Call me.
I need to
Tracy.
do it, especially if we're taking on the additional schools. I have a spreadsheet that I keep with my subawards that I forget to look at on a regular basis. So,
Yeah, I created a Google spreadsheet, but it's like, that's nice, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, it's one more thing that I have to go fill out. So I'm looking at, and it does make sense if it's tied with Medusa and all that. And I mean, one of the things I know we have to end, but I wanted to, somebody said this earlier, but the tech support, and I said this in the session yesterday, it is really good. I mean, Jessica's always been good and everybody, and especially when it's like, we're all stressed out because we're trying to do something. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because that's not usually, I've had really bad luck with grants.gov recently. The other morning I had a proposal due and they said they'd get back to me in 24 hours. It's like, no, it's this USDA is due today. Yeah, which is a big change for grants.gov. They used to be better. So I just really appreciate Quali, because it was, it was pretty crisis with grants.gov.
Yep.
So
Thank you, Peggy. I'm glad we can help.
agreed completely with the service, the customer service.
Yeah. So, and I know that's so rare nowadays. So it's very much appreciative. So.
Well, we appreciate you saying that. We, Jessica and her team, I'm new to Quali, but one of the reasons that I came over here was because of the people that would be working with the clients that I'll be fortunate enough to bring on board. Jessica, Kat, Bess, Victor. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. They're all fantastic. I do want to thank Roxanne, Amy, and Tracy for your session this afternoon. We are running a little bit over, so probably people need to start jumping off. I hate to end this powerful conversation, especially when Tracy says add negotiation module to our contract. But we probably ought to let you folks get on with the rest of your afternoons. This has been fantastic. Thanks for
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks
Thanks,
all.
everybody.
Good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and Tracy,
Take
call
care,
me because,
everyone.
we can work that out about the negotiations. We can give you some ideas.
I'm gonna need to. I'll take you up on it.
Okay.
Oh, I hate to end this call.
No,
Bye,
we're
All right,
gonna,
everybody.
bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.